So here the aggregates that are object of clinging means aggregates that can be the object of clinging, that we can cling to. So here Buddha said all 5 aggregates that are the object of clinging are dukkha, suffering. Now here it is not easy to understand or to accept this statement, because sometimes we enjoy ourselves. You enjoy good food, good companionship, or sometimes you may go to a show and enjoy, and you are happy at that time, right? Are you suffering, or you are happy when you are watching a show you like, or you are listening to a song you like? Huh? You are happy, right? Yeah. But according to the Buddha, you are suffering even at that time. Can you accept that? No? So according to the Buddha, you are still suffering at that time, although you are happy, although you are enjoying yourself, because Buddha said even the jhanas. Now when you are in the state of jhana, you are very happy. There is almost no suffering of the kind people know. But even the jhanas Buddha described as suffering. Now the immaterial jhanas are the highest of the jhanas. So when you get the immaterial jhana, you experience the highest form of the mundane happiness. But even Buddha described them as suffering. Why? Why are they said to be suffering, or why are they called suffering by the Buddha? Now, there is a key. You must understand this. Buddha said, whatever is impermanent is suffering. Now we must understand this clearly. Whatever is impermanent is suffering. So if you want to know whether a thing is suffering or not, try to find out whether it is impermanent or not. Right? You want to know whether this is suffering or not, then try to find out whether it has a beginning and an end. I mean, whether it is impermanent. If it is impermanent, then it is called suffering by the Buddha. And whatever has arising and disappearing is impermanent. You say something is impermanent. Why do you say that thing is impermanent? Because it comes and goes, right? So whatever has a beginning and an end is impermanent, and whatever is impermanent is dukkha, suffering. Now that is taught by the Buddha. We must understand this. So you are enjoying yourself, but that enjoyment will come to an end, right? It will not last forever. So when it comes to an end and it is no more, there is no enjoyment. So Buddha's explanation is that whatever is impermanent is actually suffering or dukkha. Here we must understand also the word dukkha. Whenever we hear the word dukkha or the English word suffering, we think of pain only. Now it is sometimes say we hit ourselves and we say, oh, it is dukkha, right? So when we say dukkha, we think it is only pain. Pain is dukkha. Or you are sorry and you have mental pain, right? But here dukkha means more than that. more than pain, more than painfulness. It is more than that. And so in some books, it is translated as unsatisfactory. It may be a little better. The explanation given in the commentaries is that the mark of dukkha, the sign of dukkha, is constant oppression by arising and disappearing. Now that is important. Something is called dukkha because it is constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing. That is the meaning of dukkha, not just painful. If we understand dukkha as painful, our understanding of dukkha is very shallow. So you hit yourself by accident, or you prick yourself your finger with a needle and there is pain. So you say, oh, it is dukkha, right? But that kind of dukkha you can understand without practice of vipassana meditation. But what dukkha you must understand through the practice of vipassana meditation is different. That is being constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing. That you must understand. And that you can understand only when you practice vipassana meditation and see things coming and going, coming and going. Now you are practicing, let us say you are practicing vipassana meditation. So when you practice vipassana meditation, you have to make notes of the object. Now you have to observe the objects. So there is one object and you try to be mindful of it, or you make a mental note, right? And let's say there is the thinking. Your mind goes out and you say thinking, thinking, thinking. Then after 2 or 3 notes, it is gone. But there's another object. Then you take that object. Suppose there is a sound. Then you take that sound and say hearing, hearing, hearing. And it disappears. It is finished, no more. Then there's another object like pain in the body. Then the pain, 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 you make notes. And then there's another object and you make notes of it and you see it arises and it disappears. So when you have to take these objects one after another and see them as arising and disappearing, many, many objects, you come to the understanding that, oh, everything is oppressed by arising and disappearing. That constant oppression by arising and disappearing is what Buddha meant by dukkha. So that is what I call philosophical understanding of dukkha. That is very important. Most people don't understand dukkha in that way, especially those who do not practice vipassana meditation. So you can get this kind of understanding of dukkha only through vipassana meditation. Now you listen to my talk and I'm talking to you, or you may read books on this and you think you understand. But that understanding is not your understanding. That is I call them borrowed understanding. It is not your own understanding. Somebody says this and you say, oh, it may be true. Or you read in a book and then, oh, it is true. But unless and until you see for yourself, through practice of vipassana meditation, that knowledge is not your knowledge. So by practice of vipassana meditation, we are making these kinds of knowledge our own knowledge. Only then is it called true vipassana knowledge. So vipassana knowledge cannot be gained through just listening to talks or reading books or just speculating. You have to practice. That means you have to observe objects as and when they arise, when they are existing That means at the present moment. So that is why in Vipassana meditation, to be mindful of the present object is very important. Only when you observe the object at the moment can you see it arise and it disappear. If you are not looking at something, you will not see it, right? Okay, take the example of the lightning. Are there lightnings in this country? Lightning and thunder, right? So suppose you are looking at the sky. There are clouds and you are looking at the sky, and then there is a flash of lightning. Because you are looking at the sky and you look at the lightning, when it flashes, you really see the lightning. If you don't look at the sky at that moment, you will not see the lightning, right? Yeah. If you look at the sky before it flashes and not at the moment it flashes, you will not see, right? So only when you are looking at the lightning, when it flashes, do you really see it, right? In the same way, only when the object is present and you are observing it or making notes as seeing or whatever, do you really see it? Otherwise you don't see. So that is why it is very important that you make notes of or you observe the object at the moment. So here, every object you watch through Vipassana meditation, you know that every object comes and goes, and so there is a sense of being oppressed by something, and that something is arising and disappearing. So that is very important. So we must understand the dukkha on this philosophical level also. Only then will our understanding of dukkha be complete. Otherwise, our understanding of dukkha may be shallow and not enough to push us to getting wearied with mind and matter. So getting wearied with mind and matter is a very important stage in Vipassana meditation. Now here, this kind of understanding is not explained in the commentary. In the commentary, what is explained is, because these five aggregates are also the basis for dukkha, they are also called dukkha. That is also easy to understand. Because you have these five aggregates, because you have this body, you will suffer old age, you will suffer disease, you will suffer death, and then you will suffer sorrow, lamentation, and so on, so long as you have this body, right? So this body is also said to be dukkha. So that also is not so difficult to understand. But the other thing, to see the constant oppression by arising and disappearing is important, and that you see only through Vipassana meditation. So this is the understanding of dukkha. Now you can understand that only through Vipassana meditation can you really understand the noble truth of suffering, right? If you do not practice Vipassana, you may be able to talk about dukkha, but that is not deep understanding of the dukkha. So that is why we need to practice Vipassana to understand the first noble truth, the noble truth of suffering. Now sometimes people say, oh, I'm very wearied with my life because I'm suffering. I have the chronic diseases, or I met with failure and so on. But these people don't really understand dukkha. Right? Do you think they really understand dukkha? Their understanding of dukkha is very shallow, right? Because they are in one or another way of suffering, and so they They think it is suffering. What if they are prosperous and if they are healthy and so on? Will they understand dukkha? No. If they don't practice, they will not understand, right? So it is only through vipassana practice that you can really understand the noble truth of suffering. So let us go back again. The first one. What is suffering? Birth, right? Birth is suffering, and then aging is suffering, and death is suffering. And sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair are suffering, and then association with the unloved is suffering. Separation from the love is suffering. Not to get what one wants is suffering. What is next? The five aggregates of clinging are suffering. So now you understand why they are called suffering. And the two levels of the understanding of dukkha. And also the translation of dukkha as suffering is not adequate. Because dukkha means more than suffering, right? So, what is the mark of dukkha?
Is constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing.
Very good. So if you want to see dukkha, you must see that the constant oppression by arising and disappearing. So, can you point out anything in the world which just arises and does not disappear? No. Even the buildings, they may stand for 100 years or 200 years, and then in the end, they will disappear. They will become old, and then they will have to be demolished. So there is not a single thing in the world that has only the beginning and not the end. Since everything has beginning and an end, we say everything is oppressed by the arising and disappearing. So there is no gap between the arising and disappearing. No break. That is why they say constant oppression by arising and disappearing. Now here, in passing, I want to tell you about the word sankhara. Are you familiar with the word sankhara? Maybe in some of my talks I may have explained it. You want to hear it again? Now, whenever you find the word sankhara in Pali, you should be very careful, because it can mean two things. One is opposite of the other. So sankhara can mean something that produces, and it can also mean something that is produced. So the first meaning is the active meaning, and the second is passive meaning. So both the producer and what is produced can be called sankhara in Pali. And that makes the understanding of the word sankhara more difficult, because whenever you find the word sankhara, you have to find out. You have to know in what sense it is used, whether it is used in the active sense or in the passive sense. And that is why also the word sankhara cannot be translated by just one word or just one or a group of words. Sometimes people say sankhara as volitional activities. Then you cannot use this translation volitional activities for every sankhara you find in the books. Sometimes sankhara means something that produces, and sometimes it means something that is produced. So you should understand what meaning is required in a given context. Now, if you're familiar with the dependent origination, there is a saying, avijja paccaya sankhara. Dependent upon avijja, ignorance, sankharas arise. That is one sentence in dependent origination. So you find the word sankhara there. The word sankhara there should be understood in the active sense. Sankhara means those that produce some other thing. So there the sankhara means karma. Avijja paccaya sankhara. Because there is ignorance, we do kusala karma or akusala karma. We do good deeds or bad deeds because we have ignorance. But sabbe sankhara anicca. Now that is another saying. Sabbe sankhara anicca. All sankharas are impermanent. Now in that sentence, sankhara is to be understood in the passive sense. Here all sankhara means all those that are produced or that are conditioned. So all those that are conditioned are impermanent. So there you cannot translate sankhara as volitional activities. If you translate the sankhara there as volitional activities, you are wrong. So you have to be very careful about the word sankhara. And then there is the word sankhara khanda. Among the five aggregates, the fourth aggregate is called sankhara aggregate. So there also the word sankhara is to be understood in the active sense. Something that produces or that conditions. And in Pali, the word sankhara is used in plural, or almost always in plural. Now, the five aggregates. The first aggregate is rupa aggregate. Metta, so it is not difficult to understand. Metta aggregate. Now, the second aggregate is feeling aggregate. That means you have feeling in your mind. You suppose you have pain in the body, and you experience that pain with your mind, and in your mind there is a mental state called feeling. So that feeling can be sometimes pleasurable feeling, sometimes displeasurable feeling, and sometimes neutral feeling. Sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are sad, sometimes you are neither happy nor sad. So these three kinds of feeling are called feeling aggregate. So every time you experience an object, there is this feeling. You may not be aware of that feeling, but there is always feeling. So when you see something, you may see it with pleasurable feeling, or you may see it with displeasurable feeling, or sometimes you may see it with neutral feeling. So there are at least these three kinds of feeling, and they are called feeling aggregate. And then the next one is perception. Now that is difficult to understand. Now what is perception? What is perception? So here the word sanya, now in the Pali word sanya means making a mark. Now you may have seen carpenters building a house or making things like this table and so on, and then they make marks on the wood, on the timber, right? So this part is to be cut off, or this part is to be taken, or this part is to be used as a foot or as a boat and so on. So they make marks on the timber, and these help them to remember or to recognize when they see it later. In the same way, whenever we experience an object, our mind makes a mark of that object. Now that is why when we experience it again, we are able to recognize it. Suppose you see a man or a woman. You may not know, or you may not be aware that your mind has made a mark of that person, but your mind has made a mark, and so when you see him or her later, you recognize that person, or it is he or it is she that I saw a few days ago or a month ago, and so on. So that kind of making mark is what is called sanya, perception aggregate. That sanya can be a correct sanya or incorrect or wrong sanya. And on that sanya, we base our actions. That is why it is important to get a correct sanya with regard to the objects we observe. Sometimes, let's say in the evening when it is a little dark, you see a robe, and then you think it is a snake, right? That means you have made the wrong sanya there. So you think it is a snake, and you may shout and you may run away from it. You are very afraid because you think it is a snake, right? But it is not really a snake. It is a robe. But you have made a wrong sanya. Your mind has made a wrong sanya, and so you act accordingly. So it is important that we need to have right sanya. So that sanya is translated as in English as perception. So whenever you find the word perception aggregate, please understand that it means making a mark. Making a mark for recognition later. And then sankhara aggregate. Now sankhara aggregate means a group of mental states headed by volition. You know the word, you know volition, right? Volition is the translation of the Pali word cetana. It is a mental state that encourages you to do something, that pushes you to do something. So that mental state is called volition or cetana, and it is present with every type of consciousness. It is compared to a monitor in a class. I don't know whether that word is still used. When I was young, we have a class, and one pupil is called a monitor. So he is a leader of the other pupils. So that kind of person works for himself as well as encourages others to do their work. So Chaitana is like that. Chaitana always encourages other mental factors to do their own function, and at the same time it does its own function. So that mental state is called in Pali Chaitana of volition, and that is also called a Sankhara. So the mental states that are headed by Chaitana are called Sankhara aggregate. And there are altogether 50 mental states that we call Sankhara aggregate. So you can read about the aggregates in that big book also, not here. You have to go to another chapter. So the last one is called consciousness aggregate. Consciousness, this word also is not accurate, but we have to stay with it because we do not know any other better word for the Pali word chitta or vijnana. But here consciousness means just the awareness of the object. And it is said that consciousness is always with us, all through our lives. So from the moment of conception until the moment of death, there is consciousness. Now, when a person has fainted, you say this person is unconscious. Sometimes people became unconscious in an accident or when they have disease, right? Although they are said to be unconscious according to popular usage, according to Abhidhamma, they are with consciousness even when they are said to be unconscious. So even when you are asleep, there is consciousness or mental activity going on. You are not without consciousness when you are asleep. So that awareness of the object is what is called vijnana or chitta in Pali. And that vijnana or chitta is always accompanied by other mental states. The feeling mental state, perception mental state, and sankhara mental states. So consciousness is always accompanied by the other mental states. So in one experience of seeing, we can see all 5 aggregates. So when you see something, the something you see is meta aggregate, right? Suppose you see a flower. The flower you see is meta aggregate. And you have the eyes. So the eyes are also, what are the eyes? Mind or meta? Meta. So the eyes are also meta. And then you see the rose, and there is a seeing in your mind. That seeing is consciousness aggregate. And while you see the rose, you may have the feeling, pleasurable feeling, or maybe unpleasurable feeling if you don't like roses, or neutral feeling. So there is a feeling also when you see the rose. And along with it, your mind makes a mark of that rose. Oh, this is a rose, or something like that. And also, there are other mental states arising with that consciousness regarding the rose. Say the Cetana encouraging or telling other mental states do their own function and so on. Let us say you like the rose and you are attached to it, so there is attachment. Or you don't like it and you have dosa, you have anger or ill will for the rose, and so there is dosa. So all these are called sankhara aggregates. So in one experience of seeing, we can understand these 5 aggregates. So actually, in order to understand the 5 aggregates, you don't have to go to a book. You find all 5 aggregates in yourself. So at every moment of seeing, hearing, and so on, there are all these 5 aggregates going on and on. So these are the 5 aggregates. Now you understand the 5 aggregates? You remember them? Okay. Number 1 aggregate, meta aggregate. Number 2, feeling aggregate. Number 3, perception. Number 4, sankhara aggregate. And number 5, consciousness aggregate. And it is important that we take any of these 5 aggregates as object when we practice vipassana. So vipassana takes only these 5 aggregates that are subject to clinging as object. So now we come to the end of dukkha, or the noble truth of suffering.